Hi friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today for a Fandom Friday video featuring products from Miss Ink Stamps. For today's card, I'm going to be using products from the Magic Collection like the Castle Arches dies, the Fortune Teller stamp set, and the Fortune Teller coordinating dies. I've already done my stamping, coloring with Olo markers, die cutting, and even die cut out the Castle Arches die set. So we're going to start with stenciling a background. I have an A2 sheet of white cardstock and I'm using the Magic Triangle Stencil. I just need to cover at least half, maybe a little bit more than half of this background because I'm going to layer it behind the Castle Arches die cuts. And I wanted to do a blend of some of the colors that I used with my die cutting of the Castle Arches. So I'm going to start with shaded lilac at the bottom of my stencil and blend that into Victorian velvet so it creates a nice purpley color between the more blue violet shaded lilac and the pink of the Victorian velvet. After I'm done stenciling, I'll go ahead and put my inks away and clean off my stencil, and I grabbed the antique linen Tim Holtz Distress Spritz and I gave it lots of good spritz to just give it a nice off-white shine. Once it dried mostly, I just took a towel to pick up any excess liquid or loose mica glitter from drying. I'm going to go ahead and peel that off my grip mat and set it aside just to do any more drying that it needs. And I'm going to do a little bit more stenciling using the Perspective Floor Stencil. I just want to add some kind of cobblestone look to the floor piece of my Castle Arches die just to separate it from the rest of the background. It's a little thin piece, so I'm just going to use some repositionable tape to keep that in place. And I'm grabbing Walnut Stain Distress Oxide and I'm going to gently blend that onto the ground through the stencil. And again, that will just give it a nice cobblestone look. I absolutely love the Perspective Floor Stencil. I think it's my most used stencil from Miss Ink Stamps. And then I'm using the same Distress Oxide to add a little bit of shadow to all of the column and arches pieces of my background. Once everything is dry and distressed, I'm going to grab my liquid glue and start gluing my scene together. I'm starting with the A2 frame that is die cut from the Castle Arches die and lining that up to the edges of my white panel background that I stenciled. I didn't get it lined up perfectly to the edges. There's a little bit of white peeking out, so I'm just going to grab some scissors and trim off the excess. Once I'm done, I'm going to start puzzle piecing all of the different pieces from the Castle Arches dies into this frame that I've created on my background. So I'll start with the bottom piece, which is the ground, and again using liquid glue so that way I have a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that the puzzle piece of this background is in place before it's stuck for good. So I'm going to just hop through adding all the pieces here. So started with the bottom and then I'm going to add in the two larger columns on the left and right of the background. Then I'm going to add my first arch set and then I will move on to the smaller arches. I want to make sure that I get everything placed how it's intended because the puzzle pieces really do fit snugly in there and I don't want anything to not fit as I'm putting different items together. The classroom that I'm creating has a lot of fabric curtains throughout the classroom, so I thought the inside pieces of the arches would be better to have kind of a magenta. It looks a little pink here, but it's a bit of more of a magenta pink color to try and match those curtains and all the different decorations within this classroom. I was trying to give that effect with these inside pieces of the arches. Once all my puzzle piecing is done, I'm going to make sure it's really pressed in there. I'm going to glue the two layers of the window. I die cut the detail of the window from the same Kraft cardstock as the rest of my arches. And then the background part of the window out of some Vista Stardream cardstock. It's kind of a shimmery blue. And I went ahead and glued that on and then added my strong magnets because my glass board is magnetic to make sure there's pressure while all of those pieces, the glue starts to dry and they stick. Now I've moved on to gluing the fortune teller stamp set images together. I'm layering my little table, all the different pieces like the teapot, the teacup, and the crystal ball. I thought the cat on the chair would be really cute, and then I'm going to add a few books like they're sitting on the ground. I'm going to just do a dry run of where all of my images are going to go on the background. So I have my chair with my cat on the left, my table a little more centered, and my teacher towards the right. Once I know where they're going to go, I'm going to grab a pen and just leave little marks to where the center of my crystal ball is and where the center of the prophecy ball is in my teacher's hands. So once I get those marks onto the background, I'm going to grab my hole punch. I'm going to use a little bit larger of a hole. This one's I think about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to punch holes where I made those little dots on my background are. My first one punched easy, but my second one was a little far away, but I made do. It still fit right pretty darn close to where the dot was. Now I'm going to grab an Easy Light from Pear Blossom Press. There is a battery pack, a thin battery, and 3 LEDs. So once I get the battery, put in the battery pack and press the button, you can see the 3 LEDs light up. So I know for one of them, which is the smaller little prophecy ball, I just want 1 LED to shine through. And then for the crystal ball, since it's a little bit bigger, I want 2 LED lights to shine through. Now you could just trim off one of the LED lights if you just need 2, but I don't want to trim anything off, so I'm going to just put 2 through the second hole. Once I have the LED, you can see it has a little yellow plastic piece. That's where the LED shines through. I'm placing them so they face out where the view is here because I'm on the back side of the card, so I want the LEDs to shine through. So I'm making sure that those LEDs are through the hole, and I'm just using some clear tape to hold those in place on the back side. I'm making sure the alignment looks good with my pieces. I tend to do this a lot with interactive cards, is keep pressing buttons or keep moving things to make sure that things are lining up where I want them. I'm going to grab some really thin foam adhesive. This is 1 millimeter thick, very thin, because I'm going to use a thicker foam adhesive when I layer my card together. So I'm trying to keep things really thin. I'm also being a little extra by trimming a piece of thin foam adhesive to wrap around the crystal ball, so that way when the light shines, when you press the button, it will stay almost as much as possible inside the crystal ball. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive to my chair with the kitten on it, so that way I can make sure that goes down first. It's further back in the scene, so just using some liquid adhesive and placing that onto the card front. I've already peeled off all the release paper from my foam adhesive, so I'm going to layer my table, make sure the light is shining through as I want it through the crystal ball. And then I'm going to repeat this process for my teacher, adding foam adhesive to the back of her, and again creating like a little circle behind what is the prophecy ball or prophecy sphere in her hands. I'm going to lay my teacher on top. This one's a little harder to see, so I'm going to light it up while I place my teacher and make sure that LED is shining through the crystal in her hand. And that finishes adding the front details of my card. I'm going to do my sentiments last, but that is pretty much what's going to finish the front of the card. I am using an interactive piece, so also from Pear Blossom Press, they have a little stamp set that has the sentiment push, and that way my card receiver will know this is interactive with an Easy Light. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that in the bottom corner. Now I want to line up my Easy Light so that way the button of the mechanism is underneath where I have the stamp push, so that way it will work. The card receiver will know that where they will need to push is where the LED is, or the LED battery button is. Now that I have that in place, I'm just going to use more clear tape to make sure that my wires will stay in place. And then I'm going to grab the World's Best Foam Tape, also from Pear Blossom Press. It has the perfect thickness to match the battery pack, the little mechanism. So I'm going to cut some pieces because as you can see, I'm running a little low, so I'm going to use it very sparingly. I went around the edges of the card and a little bit in the middle. I also left room so that I could stick a piece of paper in between the battery and the battery mechanism inside that little slot that it fits into, and so that way my battery won't drain if I mail this or give it to someone for their this is going to be a birthday card, so for their birthday. After I finish putting the card front onto the card base, I'm going to work on my sentiments. So I'm stamping first, "I can see cake in your future" on a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just going to trim it down to a little banner, and I'm going to use liquid adhesive to glue that to the front top left of the card. I'm going to line it up so that it meets the edge of the border that's all the way around the size of the card. I'm also going to stamp "This year will be your best," or "This will be your best year yet" on the inside of the card, and that will finish it off. So you can see here's a sentiment on the inside of the card, here's our card on the front, and when you push the push button, my crystal ball and little prophecy ball light up. Here's a close-up look at how the card has turned out, and right after that you'll see a picture with the light activated. Make sure to let me know what you think of this birthday card down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!